I'm now talking about access. So it's a different story. So with the next slide, I want to I want to take you a bit in the world once a product is on the market. What will happen then? And to just set a bit of picture what we are engaged with and what we are confronted with when we go to the market, I will present a few slides on that one. As you can see, there is a lot going on with drug development. There's more and more medicines being developed, 18,000 in total for 1,400 different diseases. And if you talk about rare diseases, still way to go, because there's many more diseases out there which there's no treatment for yet. So you see also on the technical development that we are moving to an era where actually drug discovery, lead discovery is moving into, as you can see on the right side, it's here, billions of leads which are DNA coded and can be tested if it would be a suitable candidate for a certain disease. So this is what we're going to. That means that we will be able to find a product in a large haystack to find a solution for many, many diseases. And this is also, if you look at gene technology, gene coding, our ambition is to move that way to even go to gene technology to predict more the value of certain medicines going to the market. But then, of course, you come into an environment in the Netherlands where we have a stretch. There's more and more patients, more and more demands, like was said by the previous speaker, and there's less and less money. So there's really focus on cost containment, and on the other hand, there's more options and more availability for patients to be treated. But we thought about that around 7 years ago, and we saw there that actually the hurdles are being put up because of uncertainty and cost uncertainty. And they said, well, you know, can we afford it? We should cost contain. And pharma is an easy target for cost containment. It's a popular target, at least in the Netherlands. And so they put up more and more hurdles. And that, I think, is not fair for patients, because patients are waiting for those treatments. So we should think about ways to solve this issue and solve this dilemma. And prevent products from going into the sluice. And we have now examples of products which are 3.5 years waiting for reimbursement. So patients are not getting the drugs unless the pharma is willing to give it for free, which is of course not something which is sustainable if that takes longer than 3 years. At least, within my company, it's not sustainable if it takes longer than 1 year. And it's also not fair for the patient, because the patient then needs to find a place where he can get the treatment, which is often a limited number of sites, and not all the sites where patients are being treated with that disease. So it's not working in practice. So we thought about how can we solve this? And we want to actually, within Amgen, we decided 7 years ago that we want to move away from being paid for products and buying medicines, but move to being rewarded for outcomes. So, and how do we do that? We want to be involved in delivering what we call successful treatments. So we want to deliver more than just a product. We want to help the healthcare professional, the society, the reimbursement authorities to move to a system where we are more and more involved in getting the right patient to the right treatment at the right time, and make sure that they get the proper treatment at the right time. So we do that by, of course, delivering our medicines, but we also look at, for instance, care solutions like home care. There's a tendency to move care much more to home, so we're looking into solutions there. E-health solution, value solution. How can we improve the outcomes for patients? That's the main target that we are aiming for. We want to be a partner in patient value. So for that we need a few things. And one of the things which we started with was, well, if we want to deliver outcomes for patients, you have to be aware of what does a patient want, what we need patient insights, what is important for them. And if you then determine, for instance, the outcomes which we want to collect, what is an outcome set look like for the indications where we are active, and how can we develop those? For some of the areas where we were active, there was no outcome set. So, and then the third one is, once you have the outcome set, the biggest struggle is how to get those outcomes collected and how to analyze them in a proper way and draw the right conclusions from them. So that's an area where we have been really active in. And the first one I want to take with you is the patient. We wanted to teach everybody within our affiliate, our organization, how it is to walk in the shoes of a patient. What do they experience? What is their main, not purpose, it's what do they want from treatments? How do they want to live with the disease, or how want to get better? So, and for that, I will pause a little bit with this slide, because within the affiliate, we developed a sort of scheme and activities to make sure that everybody understands what is the patient we're talking about. Because we talked a lot about our products, a lot about the science, we talked a lot with the healthcare professionals, but hardly ever with patients. Because everybody within the organization was afraid that that is not compliant. And that's not true. We can talk to patients, we can talk about outcome, we can talk about their disease, how to best treat their disease. Not about with our products, but in general. So that's something we teach the organization. We have every year we have what we call a patient day, where we invite patients, where we also let people experience what it is to be a patient. We have one of our indications osteoporosis, so we have everybody standing bent over and trying to play ping pong, just as an experience how it is to do these kind of things. Of rheumatoid arthritis with a glove which prevents you from really fine touching things, and try to drink a cup of coffee with a glove on. It's not easy, I can tell you. So we have also John Hofman, for the Dutch speakers in there, who taught us, he is having a program on living in the last days of your life. Over My Dead Body is the program called. And he is really working and talking to patients about their experiences, how it is to live with a disease, how they want to be treated, how they want also to die. So to talk to patients, and basically what he teaches the audience, everybody, all of our staff in the affiliate, how to talk and not talk, but more listen to patients. And that's a very, very important thing which we have installed in our organization. And if you then, and also we did co-create patient materials, we also teach doctors that not all patients are the same, they have a different profile. So if you have somebody who's familiar with the insights, a red person, they just want to be told, this is what you need to do, go ahead and you go. And a green patient wants to be cared about. They want support from nurses, they want much more contact. So trying to provide this individualized treatment of those patients. Things like that we are active in. We invite, with every strategy meeting, we invite patients. And not one, we invite 4 or 5 patients, patient organizations and patients. Also patients from within our own organization who have this disease. We invite them to those sessions to talk with us about what we want to do. Patient contract, we have a 24-page legal contract for patients. We, together with the legal team, we were able to trim that down to 2 pages in really understandable Dutch language. Really important, because otherwise people get scared, they don't know what they are signing for, they refuse to sign, so we did it really differently. And as last week we were rewarded actually by the Health Holland by being the most patient-centric organization in the Dutch healthcare system. So that's nice to be seen like that. Well, you know, this is also one of my favorite slides. It's an experience I had with Philips. They said, well, you know, how can you make best experience for a patient? Well, actually what they did, they designed a pirate ship as an MRI scan. You know, all kids loved to be in this pirate ship. So they really were told stories and how to make their experience more lively and more acceptable for those patients, not so scary. And lastly, about the patient, there is no such thing as the patient. It's a patient. And every patient is differently. So don't assume things for patients, just ask them how they want to be treated, how they want to be, what they want as a next step in their treatment in their treatment decisions. With that, I move to the next one. Outcome sets. Outcome sets, we developed an outcome set in principle, in the first instance, with our own company, with one hospital, with the cancer registration in the Netherlands, and with patients, nurses, doctors. So everything which is according to ICHOM, we use the ICHOM methodology. ICHOM is International Conference on Harmonization of Outcome Measures. They have a methodology how to develop these sets, and we involved everybody there, but then we decided, well, you know, it's not an Amgen thing. And that's the pre-competitive part of it. It's not just for Amgen, it's for everybody, whatever treatment they get. So we involved all the other pharma companies, and we involved also more patient organization. We involved the HOVON, which is a network of HCPs, to really think with us, is this now the outcome set we want to achieve? And we got there. And now the outcome set is actually being used by the HOVON and the multiple myeloma working group to be the outcome set for the Dutch patients in the Dutch environment. Talking also about outcome, I mean, these are the questions where patients are worried about. They're not worried about, will my progression-free survival be so? They are, of course, concerned about that, but that's not the only thing. They're concerned about these kind of things. What will happen? How many pills do I have to take every day? These kind of questions are on their agenda. So we thought about how can we help the patients, certainly also the COVID times, if they're not able to go to the hospital that often. So we developed, together with some partners, with the hospital, with patients also, again, on board, and with other commercial organization who's developing an app, the MM Coach, which is helping patients to get easier contact, to get answers to the questions via the app, via links in the app, but also to allow them to follow their own disease and report on what they experienced during their disease. So that's also one of the solutions we developed with patients. And then I move to data, my last topic. Really important. I can talk hours about data. I will not do that because I have, I don't know how, 2 minutes. Okay, I will keep it short. Outcomes is really important, and we need patient outcomes, and we need the data from real-world setting. Don't start manually typing over all the time all the different data you need from patients. It might be necessary for ultra-rare diseases, but for the bigger disease indications, we need to do it differently. And it's possible. And we need it for conditional approval, we need it to be moved to value-based healthcare to really touch on outcome, and we need it also to be able later on to have a real shared decision-making. Talking with patients with a clear insight from both sides on what is happening with those patients in life. So my plea is to move from a registry to a more real-world data setting with real-world evidence being discussed upfront and not afterwards. So we need actually the discussion on reimbursement on the right side. What kind of evidence do you need? And how can we get it from the data which are around there? And how can we collect that? And then my last slide. This is where healthcare is if you talk about data. I compare with the big phones which we carry around, and the only thing you can do with this is make a phone call. And if you want to travel by train, you have to take the booklet to find out which connection you needed. And if you see what kind of development they went through, we moved all the way to having basically a big computer in your hand. Being able to do and see and look to everything. You can look into everything you want about your life, except for your health. It's very hard to find anything about your own health. Download an app. What you need to do is then to go to each individual healthcare professional or hospital or GP to try to collect your data. And I think that should change drastically. So with that, I think 2030, my vision is that we need to organize healthcare, but also data need to be arranged around the patient. So we need to move into the cycle with innovation, data being collected, evaluated, outcomes being gathered, and then move to the next cycle to improve the outcomes for patients. With that, I conclude. Sorry for going a little bit over time.